So firstly, I'd just like to thank you, 𝐸LIC, and the members of the committee for inviting us here today to present. I'll deliver a short statement, as you say, and then we'll take questions from that. So CRAVA, the Children's Residential and Aftercare Voluntary Association, we serve as the representative body for all the voluntary care organisations nationally. And as the 𝐸LIC said, we represent both residential care, aftercare, fostering, aftercare outreach and homeless services. All of us and all of our members, we're organisations voluntary that deliver high-quality therapeutic residential care and transitional support to children and young people nationally. Through this statement, we would like to offer our perspective on what we consider the key issues impacting our care system. The current crisis in Irish residential care and aftercare, and the alternative care system generally, we feel is the predictable result of structural choices, investment choices, lack of high-level planning and policy omissions. The issue affecting us most, obviously, is the capacity crisis. The Irish care system now is experiencing, we feel, an unprecedented capacity and operational crisis that manifests in two particularly distinct ways. One is the critical shortage of mainstream residential care placements. The other is a near total absence of specialised high support options for children and young people presenting with complex therapeutic needs. There's a historical root cause to this, which was manifest in December 2013 when the Ombudsman for Children's Office then published a meta-analysis. And this identified 7 repetitive root cause issues impacting the provision of services for children in care. The report explicitly identified the insufficient availability of residential care as one of a number of chronic structural defects in the state's care apparatus, the alternative care system. To rectify this, report recommended the state urgently design a comprehensive strategic development plan to determine the optimal role of residential care within the alternative care system. This plan was intended to shape future services, guarantee equitable regional distribution, ensure that placement capacity matched the number and particular needs of children placed in the care of the state. Unfortunately, this was never picked up on. We have a number of recommendations we just outlined in our statement. The first one is we believe it's necessary to address the core issues that the state undertake a comprehensive expert review of the care system. This would identify systemic failings, develop a fully costed long-term reform strategy to develop a care system that meets the needs of every child and young person placed in state care. The strategy would focus on rebalancing the shape, type and scale of provision, looking at a balance between residential, foster care, kinship care, early intervention and all other, key actions. It would also include models of care, wraparound support for more complex needs as part of a wider vision for alternative care to make it needs-based, therapeutic and child-centred. The second is to rebalance the voluntary sector capacity and reduce reliance on not-for-profit. And I'll remind the committee members that in the strategy produced in 2022, this was an overarching objective which unfortunately wasn't achieved. We believe the state should formalise a clear policy commitment to reduce reliance on the for-profit provision of residential care to end the commodification of care placed in the care of the state. In partnership with TUSTA, this could be implemented through a phased strategy of expansion of state and voluntary non-profit infrastructure to ensure public funds are directed entirely toward direct care delivery. An overhaul of the funding model to reform Section 56, this SLA grant system which applies to the voluntaries should be a sustainable cost recovery model, which it's not, and should include capital funds to allow proper modernisation of services and capacity increase in the voluntary sector. The pay and conditions issue to restore parity of pay, esteem and pay, pension and working conditions between social care professionals employed in Section 56 voluntary care organisations and their public sector colleagues. And I'd just like to say this was historically in place, but obviously was basically removed in the not too distant past. Design an evidence-based multi-annual capacity plan. The department, with their partnership with TUSA, to develop and implement a data-driven 5-year national strategic development plan for residential and aftercare services, as outlined by the Ombudsman in both 2013 and this year again. And finally, reform transitional aftercare infrastructure. The state must expand statutory entitlement to comprehensive aftercare services for every young person in the care system. Adult homelessness cannot be an acceptable outcome for people leaving the care system, young people leaving the care system. This requires investment to ensure young people experience a continuous, secure pathway to independent living. So to conclude, we are ready and stand, to work with all of the stakeholders within the alternative care system, government departments, TUSTA, care delivery organisations and everyone else involved, stabilising the voluntary sector, committing to equitable funding and addressing profit making in the care of vulnerable children. If we can address these things, we believe that Ireland can build a resilient, legally compliant and genuinely therapeutic alternative care system that prioritises the rights and well-being of children and young people it is trusted to protect. While challenging this, we believe it's an entirely achievable goal.
Mr.